Hello and welcome to the Sonic Cinema Podcast. My name is Brian Skutle. Thank you for joining me at www.sonic-cinema.com, as well as the Sonic Cinema Podcast YouTube channel. You can check out more quick take reviews, live stream video, as well as more at the YouTube channel. But wherever you listen to the podcast, whether it's YouTube, Apple, Google, Spotify, Good Pods, be sure to subscribe, rate and review, and share the episodes wherever you can. And every little bit helps as far as getting more people to the podcast. You can also check us out at patreon.com/Sonic Cinema. There you will get early access to reviews, exclusive series like Leaving the Collection and Life Soundtrack, which is for the Easy Riders Raging Bull tier, my Oscar nomination reactions, as well as film festival short film block coverage. And that is at patreon.com/Sonic Cinema. The Patreon's actually a good place to end the introduction in particular today, because Patreon subscribers have actually had access to this since 2019. And it is an interview and discussion that I had with my mother, Victoria Skutle, in December of 2018. I'd wanted to have her on the podcast for a while, but I could never really get her over to talk about movies. But I was able to in December of 2018. And it's melancholy for several reasons, because I always love the discussions I had with my mother about movies, and she's the reason you're listening to this. In a very real way. She helped nurture my creative side, and my creative side is where I get that, and she's the reason I am as creative as I am, and I get my creativity from her. But I also get my love of movies from her, and there are some movies that she introduced to me as a kid that I still love. And you've heard me talk about some of those before, especially on my 40 films that shaped my first 40 years episode back in 2017. And also moving forward, there are going to be some of those movies that I talk about here and elsewhere as well. This was not as in-depth a movie discussion as I hoped. And part of the reason is because of the fact that this was in the early time before we had her dementia diagnosed. And you can kind of tell the way she goes off subject to a certain extent, and it sometimes feels like pulling teeth to get her to talk about movies and stuff like that, and specific movies. But I think you find when you do listen to this, and I almost was worried that this would be unusable in its original form. But as I edited it, I found that it was something that could be heard and could give you insight into her, the way she thinks and the way she feels, the way she felt about movies, what appealed to her about movies, what made movies special to her. I think that comes through in this discussion. I shared a little bit of it in 2021 after she first went into assisted living, and I'm sharing the rest of it now. I've been kind of holding off on doing that, but I want to get it out there. But there have been some health issues with my mom beyond her dementia the past few months that made me realize that this might be the time to share this. So if this is your first time at the podcast because you're wanting to listen to this episode, I thank you for listening. If it isn't, I hope this gives you some insight, not just into the person who inspired me to be the person I am today as far as a critic and composer, but into the way movies and life really really resonates with me, and I hope you will enjoy this episode as much as I enjoy listening back to it. Today, I'm very pleased to be joined with my mother, Victoria Skutle, and the reason you're listening to this in kind of every way is due to her. She has basically been ground zero as far as my movie love over the years, and is really the reason I started doing music and recording in general as well. So I'm pleased to have her on and discuss her life and the movies that mean the most to her. So please welcome my mother, Victoria Skull, to the podcast.
Hello.
I think before we get into the movies, the first thing that I want to it's been mentioned a couple of times on the podcast in relation to at least one specific movie that you were an extra in, Scream 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to, just before we start talking about movies in particular, what got you interested in acting?
I had done plays with a theater company in Ohio, and I had done some other theater company type stuff. And so I just was always a person who liked live theater and television. Of course, I was born into television.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, yes, television and movies, and my parents were fond of movies, and that's how I ended up going to movies and becoming a person who appreciated and loved all kinds of movies.
What were some of your first real memories as far as specific movies and just the type of movies that resonated with you when you were growing up?
Well, we saw everything. When we moved to Kentucky, obviously it was like 3,000 people were in the town.
Mm-hmm.
So we had one theater in the town, and we had a courtyard, a square, and all of that. And so movies were very well attended because there wasn't a lot to do.
Right.
Except for roller skating. Roller skating in Kentucky was the thing, and I loved it. And so that was the thing that that section of my life made a huge difference. Mm-hmm. Because it was a small town, and it was hard. My mother actually, I didn't know this for a long time, my mother actually, when we moved out of Benton, Kentucky, my mother gave me a Valium because of the fact that I was so messed up. Because you knew everybody, and I was in the in crowd, I mean, it was just traumatic to come to Ohio. And so that was a thing that shaped my life for a long time.
Well, yeah, and I know, like with you, as far as moving from Kentucky to Ohio, I know when we first moved down to Georgia, I wasn't that. It wasn't that bad for me, but it was that bad for me because of the fact that it's like it was the life that I knew.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I remember we went to movies often. And it's weird because I'm listening to this one podcast now, A's All Over, where they're going through the 80s 1 month at a time, and they're talking about all the basically every major movie that came out each month. And it's interesting to me, as much as I love movies, and I think I've always enjoyed movies, there's a lot that is my movie watching experiences. Like, I didn't have a lot of truly formative ones as a kid. I mean, there were some that I remember, to be sure. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like I remember going to the drive-in every once in a while in Ravenna, and you've told me about when we went to go see E.T. for the first time, and the first time that E.T. and Elliot fly, like, I had to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, so we didn't even know that happened.
Yeah, so when when it happens at the end, it's like, oh my word.
Yeah, because that wasn't at the drive-in. That was at the theater.
Yeah, that was in the theater.
Yes.
And then the first movie going experience I really vividly remember is opening day of Return of the Jedi, and I remember it because of the fact that the projectionists couldn't get it right. They couldn't get it on screen properly. And let's see if we can get Bendu out of here.
Yeah,
you know
you do.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah.
But what's funny that was the first real movie going experience I remembered was Return of the Jedi, and I was 6 at the time.
Yeah.
But it was so memorable because of the projection issues. So I think that's kind of why when I went to the theater industry myself, I was interested in projection because of the fact that I was fascinated by, how the movies get on screen. And, but yeah, it's like, I don't know that I necessarily had a normal childhood when it came to watching movies. Like, when it came to Disney, I didn't have that formative experience the way a lot of kids had.
Well, I'll tell you the truth. When it comes to Disney, I just don't care.
Yeah.
Because Looney Tunes is the epitome of, the richness of that franchise has just been, for me, it's like, because Mickey Mouse is like nothing. Who cares? I couldn't care less. Mm-hmm. But you get Marvin the Martian on there, and you get, all these, and so it's just like, oh my God, Looney Tunes is the best cartoons because of the fact that they are the ones that have the richness and the smartness, and oh my gosh, love it.
And the fact of the matter is that makes a lot of sense because of the fact that it's like it really, when you think about your sensibility, when I think about your sense of humor, it absolutely makes sense that Looney Tunes is such a formative part of that. And I mean, that was something that was passed on to me. And I mean, there were also, and there was also movies that you passed on to me that had that same irreverent, sarcastic sense of humor. And when I did my list of last year, when I turned 40, of the 40 movies that really defined my first 40 years, 2 of the films I had to include were Young Frankenstein and Arsenic and Old Lace, which were 2 movies that I definitely watched when I was a kid. And it was because of the fact that those movies contributed, yes, Frank Capra's Arsenic and Old Lace.
Just watched it, and it was black and white, none of that crap coloring it up.
Yeah.
And it's like I just watched it the other day. And the fact of it is, before I forget, Cary Grant, best ever. Best movies, best actor. Oh my gosh. There isn't anybody that was better than him.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. And so I was watching Houseboat, and I was watching, whatchamacallit? What's the other one? I was just watching Arsenic and Lace and all of that.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then, Charade, you know.
Yes.
And I just have to have those movies because of the fact that there just isn't anybody better. And that's, it's so sad when you see, I watched, because I don't know how it got on the television because of the fact that I don't know what my television is doing at any given time. But I watched Meet Joe Black.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
How long is that freaking movie?
I'm fairly certain it's 14 hours.
It seems
it feels like 14 hours.
Ever, and it's just not worth it. My life should have been doing something else at the time.
Well,
but
it's funny that you bring up Meet Joe Black because of the fact that this last month actually was like the 20th anniversary after the first teaser for The Phantom Menace came out. And the movie we went to go see that had that trailer on there was Meet Joe Black.
Oh, God.
And so it's like, that's my main reason I remember watching Meet Joe Black in theaters, is because it had the Phantom Menace trailer on it.
And that movie, I watched the whole darn thing, and it's like, I was so glad when it was over. It just isn't worth it. But Philadelphia Story, have you seen all of Philadelphia Story?
I hate to admit it, I cannot say that I've seen all of Philadelphia Story.
That's a movie that you have to see, because it was such a different venue because of its time.
Yeah.
And it was just the best. And, you know, Cary Grant and what's her face? What is her
Katharine
face?
Hepburn.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Jimmy Stewart was in it as well.
He was. And that's the thing. And it's like, oh my gosh, you know. And it was just one of those things that, if you're going to see something, you got to see this. Because it is a time period and a social situation that was never played out in any other venue because of the time, because of the era, and because of the situation. And it's like, it was a totally different time. And so it was like, that was it. But, all right, gonna say this before I forget.
Okay.
Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell and Overboard.
Yes.
Oh, I love Kurt Russell. And I watched this thing with Kurt Russell as Santa Claus the other day.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, here he is with his elves in his place, you know, and stuff like that. And you see the back of a woman's form, and she was Mrs. Claus.
Oh, wow. I didn't know. I hadn't heard that yet.
And it was like,
I hadn't heard that yet.
That makes
it
was so
great. I need to.
So terrific. And it's like, oh, I just love those two, and I just love them.
And the original Overboard is really good.
And you realize
we actually own we actually own Overboard. So
okay, and the original, okay, the one that I just saw, Houseboat.
Yes.
With Cary Grant and Sophia Loren.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's just a classic, and it's wonderful because it was just one of those heartwarming. There isn't anything better than a good darn love story movie.
Yeah,
and it was really terrific. And Cary Grant and Sophia Loren, that's not some people that you would think of, but oh my God, she was darn good,
Yeah.
So anyway,
And while we're still talking about Cary Grant, I mean, a lot of this came up because of Arts Naked No Lace.
Yep.
But I also know that I believe it's still your favorite movie of all time. I can't imagine it will have changed much over the years. Is North by Northwest.
Oh God, yes. I haven't watched it in this, but it's gonna come up because there is no better movie than North by Northwest. To me, it is the definitive movie because you just don't have a clue what's going to happen. And it's just the best movie. I think that movie is the best of any. I think it's top of the list.
You can definitely make a case for it. I mean, as a fan of Hitchcock, I mean, the fact of the matter is, it's like that film covers a lot of genres. It covers spy. You have action set pieces. You have suspense set pieces. You have romance with Cary Grant and Eva Marie Saint. You have detective movie. I mean, it practically has everything.
It does. It has everything, and I think that is my favorite as far as the definitive movie.
Yeah.
That's it. Because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't have a clue. And it's so original. So original. Nothing like it. Thank God for color.
Yeah.
I mean, I love this movie, black and white. Don't even bother with trying to color that up. Because
I don't even think you can find the colorized
because
versions.
You should never
I think they got rid of those like 2 decades ago. Yeah, I don't think you can find them anymore.
Okay,
because they were so misguided.
So one of the other favorites is
The Fifth Element. By Luc Besson.
You got it. It is one of those, who the hell knows what's going to happen. And it's just wonderful. So I'm so glad that I have it on, whatchamacallit.
Yeah.
And I know it's little, but the ref.
One of my favorite Christmas movies of all time.
The ref. It is, and of course, not necessarily Keanu Reeves. However, this is Warm Bodies.
Yeah.
Nothing like it. Nothing like it. So I got me some Broken Arrow and Wild Hogs, and there's just movies that you have to have. But I'll tell you, when I was watching, I don't know when it was. It wasn't that long ago. When I was watching, oh God, what is it? Oh, Blazing Saddles. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And you know, Spaceballs. It's like, oh God, Mel Brooks. There's nobody better.
Yeah.
Nobody. And Kurt Russell is the epitome of so much joy and so much, he just was, and dang,
Well, and he still is. I mean, it's a credit to Kurt Russell that he's still relevant. I mean, that Christmas movie just came out last month on Netflix, and I mean, he's still relevant to a lot of people. He still is an icon for a lot of people.
He
rightfully
is.
So.
Well, he's been. I saw him when he was a youngster.
Yeah.
And I remembered him from ages. You know, so that was one of the things that was part of my childhood, actually.
Yeah.
And so he's been there for a long time, but I really do love Overboard.
Yeah.
I really do. Goldie Hawn was like, huh? What?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, I love that movie, and I love them, and so yeah, it's real important. But this is the Inn of the Sixth Happiness was probably my childhood cry your eyes out, because it was pretty much a true story.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that blows you away, because of the fact that if it's just somebody making stuff up, that's one thing. But damn, this really happened. And it was. So to me, this film was one of those films that I can never, ever get rid of, because I just absolutely love the story and the whole thing,
For people who aren't aware, what is the Inn of the Sixth Happiness about?
The Inn of the Sixth Happiness is about a woman who wasn't good enough to be a, what do you call that? Nobody would support her going to China and being a, what do you call it? Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so anyway, so she did it on her own, okay? And so she just got caught up in all the stuff that was happening at the same time in China. And so she was a missionary, and oh my God, I mean, first of all, we should just watch the damn thing.
Yeah.
Because it's ridiculous, and you have to see it to understand it, and understand the timing.
Yeah.
This is when women in China had to bind their feet. You know what that is?
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really nasty. So that's why I say, yeah, seeing this movie is a legacy that never would have happened if I hadn't seen this movie when I was young.
Yeah.
And it introduced you to a different culture, and it introduced you to a fantastic woman who, against all odds, did things that, damn, you know, nobody else would have done it.
Yeah.
So that's why I like you and I see this.
I actually watched it. I actually borrowed it last year and watched it for my movie week section on Sonic Cinema. And yeah, I saw immediately why it resonated with you.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, and it's got Ingrid Bergman in it. She's in the lead. And I completely...
Juergens.
Yeah, and I completely understand why it resonated with you.
Because it was just, it was a true story. And it was a bit, okay, all right, here we go. I have to speak for my mother.
Okay.
Since I was in The Sound of Music, okay, my mother hated The Sound of Music, okay? And the fact that she actually went to see the play because I was in it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Because she hated The Sound of Music. And so it was like, this is just one of those things where, you know, climb every mountain, bullshit. It was just too... Maybe it was too Catholic for her. Maybe it was just too Catholic for her. Or it was just too... I don't know. She just hated it. And so it was like, so, you know, here, climb every mountain, blah, 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 blah. So anyway... Yeah. So the end of The Sixth Happiness is the film that is kind of an anti-Sound of Music.
Yeah.
Because this was just one freaking woman.
Yeah.
It wasn't a bunch of nuns. It was one freaking woman. And she changed so much. And did so much, and it's like, yeah, all these films are just like, yeah, you got to have them, you know. And Cary Grant and there's just nobody better than Cary Grant. So
yeah,
that's the definitive actor as far as I'm concerned. But Philadelphia Story, you say you saw it?
I've not seen it.
No?
I've not seen it.
Okay.
No. It's somewhere on the list.
Where can we get it?
That's actually a good question. I'm not sure where it's available. I'm sure it's...
Oh, it's got to be available.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
I have it. I just don't know.
No, I know we don't have it.
Yeah.
But I know it's available somewhere. I just don't know where.
So anyway, End of the Sixth Happiness was my epitome of, you know, what a great true story could be.
Yeah.
And so everything after that was just, you know, different. So that is my absolute thing, you know.
Well, going back to theater for a little bit and your history in theater.
Yeah.
I know, and this will tie into movies, because this is, and I think I have talked about this on the podcast before, but I know I've mentioned in my review of the actual movie. Without question, one of the most formative moments I think I've ever had in watching fiction play out is when, and I don't remember how old I was, when you took me to a production of Wait Until Dark.
Oh yeah, that wasn't that in
it was in Ohio.
It was
that.
in Ohio, and that was downtown in Ohio, and that was that was live theater.
Yeah,
and it was scary.
That ending, which everybody knows if you've seen the movie, but the movie with Audrey Hepburn and Alan Arkin is fantastic.
Yeah,
it just doesn't have the same impact as it did in the theater because basically, and I won't spoil it,
shit.
But needless to say, I was traumatized watching that.
I don't know how old were you at the time.
Well, I mean, it was in Ohio, so I had to be like no older than 10.
Oh, and the thing of it is, we were really close in that theater. I mean, we were close to the stage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember how close, but boy, it seemed like we.
But yeah,
were really
when that moment came up, it's like
scared the crap.
I was in tears. I was in tears watching at the end of that movie, at the end of that play. It was. If you haven't seen the movie's quite good, but it just doesn't do that live performance justice. It never.
It can't do it.
Yeah. And it just doesn't work the same on film because it's like you know that
what's happening.
Especially if you're familiar with as many tricks of the trade when it comes to thrillers and genre and suspense.
Well, also because of the fact that live is different than film.
Well, the thing is it's weird because Meredith and I last year we went to a performance of Phantom.
Yeah.
The musical at the Fox Theater. I had seen like all of the major film versions of that story. I had seen the adaptation of the musical. I had seen the Lon Chaney one. I had seen the Claude Rains one. That story just kind of bounced off me. Like I was not like it just didn't really do anything.
Now,
to me.
See what you said right there was you had been into the actual movies that had that.
Yeah.
And so it was a different experience, and it can't be.
It was not the same. But watching the musical live, it made me appreciate that musical all the more.
Yeah.
With how it ended up playing, how it played out. I mean, it's the same story. It was just that live setting that had the impact. And I mean, that's one of the things where it's like, as much as I love movies and I adore movies, the movies that are great for reasons in how they make you feel and how they make you see the world. There's something about live performances just it takes it to another level. And so that was it. And so I mean, Wait Until Dark was one of those things where it's like the thing is, it's like
shit out of it.
I don't get scared at horror movies. Like, I really don't get scared at horror movies.
Yeah.
There are movies I'll jump during movies. But it's funny because that brings me to probably one of my favorite moments of all time watching a movie with you was when we went to see Jurassic Park on opening day. And it was a packed house. The moment where they're in the kitchen with the raptors, somebody is like walking in the row behind us and they brushed up against your hair, scared you to death. It's like,
I don't remember that.
Oh, I do.
Oh my god.
I do.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
I mean, but I mean, that's an example of how like real life can really be brought into the movie going experience and really affect how you look at a movie. And yeah, I mean, so that was something that I definitely needed. I wanted to bring up the Wait Until Dark thing because it's like that's one the most formative moments I think I ever have had watching fiction is just how traumatized I was watching that moment, and it just the way it impacted me.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean it's one of those things where, you know, and I'm glad. This is part of the reason why I was glad that I wanted to have you on here, because of the fact that you're going to bring up movies that have an impact for you that are not necessarily going to be brought up by the same people that I've talked to. They're going to bring up movies that are important to them, and I mean they're closer to my age, so it's like it's going to be the movies that I've grown up watching.
Well, see, the thing of it is, it's like, all right. Now, of course, I can't remember the movies that I'm thinking of because of the fact that The Blob, The Blob was in color, and it was a cool movie.
Yeah.
Just a cool movie. But there was another movie later on, and now if you think I can remember what it was, I don't know. I just know that when I was, young and in Kentucky, and I was sitting on the right side, because we had one theater. Yeah. That was it. So it was packed. And so I was sitting on the, aisle, and Joe Miller, who was in my class, while I was watching this scary movie, he came and brushed up on me, and I screamed the shit. just screamed like crazy because it was that scary, And I remember when my girlfriend and I were watching one of the scary movies, and she and I pulled our jackets up over like this because we didn't want to see it and everything. And so it's like movies have always been so freaking important to my life. And it's like being in a stage show is one thing, but to be in a screen, having a screen in front of you that makes you feel not disconnected at all. You are in with the drama and the thing and the whole thing, and it's like, wow, there's just nothing like it. And so that's why, I can't believe I spent how many hours with Meet Joe Black. I mean,
it was
and it's like, oh crap, why did I do this? It just isn't important.
Yeah.
And it's like,
and I don't even, and the thing is, it's like at that point, like I was seeing plenty of movies by myself, so it's like I'm curious why we ended up watching that movie together. I mean, I think it was just because of the fact that it's like, maybe. But the thing is, it's like, it's not like you were, because it's not like you were a big fan of Brad Pitt. So it's like, it's not like, oh, I have to see it because Brad Pitt.
Okay, I did like his hair.
But the fact of the matter, but the thing is, it's like you weren't over the moon over him the way other people were, or the way you are about other people. And it's like, it kind of baffles me that like we ended up seeing that movie together.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as opposed to me just seeing it on my own and seeing what I thought of it. But
well, with so much shit on my screen that I just don't care about.
Yeah.
And that's what's frustrating to me, because it's like, give me something I want to see. Not, I want to see something, you know, and you know, but but I want to see something good. I don't want to see something. Who cares, you know? But yeah. So all of that is a part of it because of the fact that, like I said, the Blob, and I feel like it was a Frankenstein movie too. There was a Frankenstein movie, and that's what made me jump like crazy. Yeah. But yep, you saw the Fly, the Fly.
I know I've seen the original Fly.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've seen the Vincent Price one. It's been a long time since I've seen
stuff
it.
was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so that stuff there's just nothing like it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know. There's just, in other words, I am a unique individual because of what I've seen and what I've experienced.
Yeah.
And the people who absolutely dismiss movies and television and stuff, and it's like, you're such an idiot. I'm sorry, but you're such an idiot. This is a huge, huge society that grew up with the movies and grew up with going to drive-in theaters and, you know, stuff like that. And it's like, wow, you know, you just, I don't really respect people who are so stupid that they don't get it. I think that's what it is. It's like, you and I are never going to be buddies because you don't get it. I grew up with the Blob and this and that, and oh my God, don't even try to tell me, because you're just not right. And also, it's like, you know how I am about worrying about who being specific about this or that is, to me, important. You know, like Cary Grant, you know, and stuff like that. And it's like just because I watch movies and, you know, stuff like that doesn't mean that I will watch any movie anytime and waste my time on stuff that doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. So it's like, you know, Jay and Silent Bob. I mean,
yeah.
I'm sorry, but, you know, Jay and Silent Bob. And so, you know, I just don't know. But
I can't even remember. Yeah, and you brought up Mystery Science Theater 3000. I can't remember. It's weird because I remember us starting to watch that together.
Yeah.
Back when it was on Comedy Central. I can't remember why we started watching it. I mean, it was just one of those things where it's like, I think we just started to watch it, and then just kind of
I don't know when
went from there.
I really can't remember either. And the thing of it is like now the most recent thing was Doug McClure, and it's like, okay, that wasn't a great movie.
Yeah.
It's just that I kind of, you know, when you've got something that you're familiar with.
Yeah.
It just makes a difference because you're just like, well, I like Science Theater 6000, and
Yeah, I haven't seen all of the new episodes. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten to those yet.
Yeah.
I do need to, because and it's weird because Mystery Science Theater is one of those things where it's like I think that's something that's completely informed how I look at films. And it's something that's completely informed how I write about films.
Because it's also a wonderful look at crap.
Yeah.
and how bad crap can be.
Yeah.
Without even trying. You know what I mean? It's like, oh God, what a waste of time that was. You know.
Yeah.
But it's like, but it's also like, oh, you know, this movie was just great. It was great. That just because you think it was great doesn't mean I think it was great.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm older than you, and I have seen a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
And I like a lot of good stuff. And this is one of my earliest films. And that's because of the fact that it was so long ago, and it was such a fantastic, mostly true story.
Yeah.
You know, it was real instead of being made up or anything. And so it's like, this woman really existed.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, it just opens everything up to you saying, Jesus Christ, I can't believe she did that.
Mm-hmm.
And wow, that's impressive, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm never going to do that because I still have salon puffs for my knees because my knees are.
Getting back to the topic of movies, we've talked a little bit about some of the movies that you love watching over the years and stuff like that. One topic that I wanted to see if you could go a little bit on the record from, because it is something that I've talked about on a couple of previous podcasts when it comes to horror movies, was when I was unhealthily obsessed with the Friday the 13th movies as a kid.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to let you be able to sort of put in your own words what it was about that really.
I couldn't care less.
Okay.
I don't remember caring at all about that.
You did, and it was because of, well, it wasn't necessarily so much because of the content. It was because I think it was because of the fact that, I mean, it was partially because of the content, because Jason's one of those, you know, those killers that just doesn't die.
Yeah.
And that was something that made you uncomfortable with it, and, you know, but also the idea that I was like sort of scribbling like my own little stories on it, doing like my basically early fan fiction of like Friday the 13th part 13 and 14, and not realizing that it would actually get up to that high. But yeah, that was something that I wanted to. Yeah, I wasn't sure if you were necessarily.
That's something that I just.
Because I know you did have an issue with it.
I just
me
really
being obsessed with that.
Yeah, it was just like, because the fact that I had seen so many good movies about the occult or the scare stuff, that kind of stuff, probably means that I was just a little bit elitist about the fact that no, there's good stuff and then there's crap. There's good stuff and then there's crap, and this is just kind of creepy, and it's kind of not maybe healthy. But
it didn't help that it was 10 at the time.
Yeah.
So that didn't help that was 10 at the time.
It might have had something to do with it.
And I mean, the fact of the matter is, looking at it now, it's like you're absolutely right. You were right in your alarm and not being comfortable with that. I completely understand that. I know it's been a couple of years since we've actually seen a movie in theaters together.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite recent movies? Movies that you.
Well, the only ones that I really see are the ones that are on television.
Yeah.
God, I can't even think of anything at this time. You got to give me something, because I don't know.
I know Wall-E's one that you're particularly fond of.
Oh God, yes. Yes, I will always. Wall-E is my absolute favorite. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to say that. Yeah, that is, and I just absolutely adore it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know one that both of us were a little perplexed by at first, but I know I believe we've both grown fond of was Cloud Atlas as well.
Oh yeah, when that's on, I watch it.
Yeah.
And it's really, it was a big deal. Because didn't we see that in the theater around the corner?
No, we saw that at AMC. We saw that at Barrett Commons, yeah.
Huh.
We saw that at Barrett Commons.
What the hell did we see at whatchamacallit?
So part
Oh God.
I'm trying to think of the last thing we did see at Part 12. I know one of the first things we saw there was Tombstone when it first came out.
And that was Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell. Val Kilmer as Doc Holliday.
Oh, that has been. Because see, I'm in the area of Blazing Saddles, so it's like that's who I am, with this like Mel Brooks and Blazing Saddles and stuff that just isn't anything. I just absolutely love that movie.
I mean, those are the two recent ones that I know you've had particular affinity for.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's like I know you watch more TV now than you do movies, because I mean,
actually, I don't.
So it's been.
Actually, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of. Well, my comfort zone is Frasier.
Yeah.
And, and stuff like that. And then, like I said, the Mystery Science Theater stuff. Sometimes that's on, so I watch that, But I've got so much crap on my screen.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't care about that. I don't care about this. I mean, one of the things was that I did that I watched that Kurt Russell Christmas thing. And it wasn't that great, but I still, love Kurt Russell, and so, that's a thing. And I tell you, Amy Acker had a...
Yeah, we talked about that on the way up.
Oh, yeah. And I was... I was really surprised about that. And I was like, I miss Community. But, I mean, it's right there.
Yeah.
Where I can see it, if I want to see it at any given time. It just kind of makes me sad.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, and I know Community was definitely a big one for you in particular, but both of us after Dad died. I mean, that's when you started watching it. That's when you picked up on it. You started watching it was after he died, and I think you just found it one day.
Anyway, okay.
But yeah, I know you started watching Community. I mean, I think that's something you just found.
I just adore Joel.
Yeah.
I do. I don't even know what the hell he's doing.
I don't know what he's doing right now.
I do just have the Community things right there on my just a few feet away and everything. But
well, thank you very much for doing this today.
Wow.
I'm glad we were able to talk a bit about movies.
Anytime that I can talk about movies.
That was my mother, Vicky Skutle, talking about her life, talking about movies as much as we could, and I'm so grateful for her for being the mother she was. She is, and she's still around, but it's you just don't know at this point in life where things are going to go, and that's part of the reason why I chose this time to release this episode. But if you know what's going on with that, but I wanted to get it out there, and I think it's important for her to have her voice be part of this podcast. That was always an important thing for me. I wish we could have talked about more. I wish we could have talked about movies like 12 Monkeys, which we both kind of were perplexed going out of the movie and then ended up loving it. We didn't talk about movies like What's Up, Doc, or Pillow Talk. Some of the movies she loved growing up, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And, it's funny, the movies that she likes now, the TV that she likes now, she likes Community. That was a big comfort show for her after my father died. And that's when we started to watch it. And she just absolutely loved it. And so thankfully that's on Netflix. So whenever I go and I'm leaving after a visit, I will put Community on because it's something that she enjoys and something that will continue. We loved Santa Clarita Diet, and really, she was really upset when that wasn't continuing. Modern movies, the new movies, the last movie we saw in theaters was Toy Story 4 together. I talked about a little bit in a quick take review about Toy Story 4, and I'm kind of glad that was the last one because of the fact that that's a movie. It's about saying goodbye to a portion of your life in a very big way, and I love that ended up being the last movie we saw in the theaters. Now she wants to watch stuff that she's familiar with. We watch stuff like Air Force One, like The Firm. I can get What's Up Dockin', Romancing the Stone. Life as We Know It is a movie that really connects, that she really connects with, and there are so many more. And I've got a list up on Letterboxd about some of the movies that I will always identify with her, and it's a pretty comprehensive list, and some of them are just from the past few years. You know, this has been a journey, and I will always be grateful for her being a part of that journey. And thank you very much for taking in this episode, this special episode of the Sonic Cinema podcast. We will get back to some regular programming back in March, where I will cover Renegade Film Festival. I'll be talking again with Amanda Spears on the Oscars, and I will have a first-time guest. We're going to be talking about one of the great screen icons and her Oscar-nominated performances. This year is going to be as jam-packed with great stuff as last year was. We've got a really good start so far, and I'm really looking forward to continuing. Check us out at patreon.com/SonicCinema. Check out my music at Bandcamp. My mother even plays on some of the pieces, and I'm going to share a song as part of the end credits here on this episode of the podcast that she came up with. And you can also please, again, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, as well as check for reviews and more at www.sonic-cinema.com. Thank you very much.
It's over, all over. It's time to go home. It's over, all over. So please leave the dome. The game was exciting, it was thrilling and fun. But it's over, all over.